Modern portrayals of ancient Egypt replete with gleaming pharaohs draped in gold, grand processions through sun-baked temples, and the iconic silhouette of the three pyramids rising against an endless desert sky of far more. To Hollywood, spectacle and best-selling novels, and to the nuanced findings of archaeologists through films, television series, and adventure tales. Our collective imagination has been captivated by dramatic reconstructions that emphasize royal opulence and monumental architecture, often at the expense of historical context. As a result, the Giza Plateau's three famous pyramids have come to symbolize the entirety of Egypt's past glory, leaving little room in popular consciousness for the sprawling network of settlements, workshops, and lesser-known tombs that once marked the Nile Valley. These same media-driven images tend to gloss over the everyday lives of builders, farmers, and artisans who sustained one of history's most enduring civilizations for millennia. By focusing almost exclusively on elite kings enthroned in spectacular funerary rituals and massive stone structures intended to ensure their immortal reign, the broader archaeological record, which reveals powerful insights into economy, religion, and social organization, is too often relegated to footnotes. In truth, the three pyramids at Giza represent only a fraction of Egypt's architectural achievements, and the wealth of material culture unearthed at lesser-known sites is essential for understanding how this society functioned. When we allow popular culture to dictate our image of the past, we risk mistaking entertainment for evidence, and in doing so, we may overlook the complex tapestry of human experience that truly defines ancient Egypt. Long-dismissed fringe theory contends that the familiar trio of gleaming, white-cased pyramids on the Giza Plateau once had a darker sibling, a fourth pyramid constructed entirely from an exceptionally hard black stone and situated just to the west of its more famous neighbors, and like the soaring, sharply pointed structures built as tombs for pharaohs complete with hieroglyphic inscriptions, funerary chambers, and smooth limestone veneers, this alleged Black Pyramid is said to have risen as a squat monolithic block, its apex replaced by a massive flat capstone rather than a traditional pyramidion. Early European explorers in the 18th century produced sketches and written descriptions of its starkly contrasting call, or an unusual form, yet mainstream Egyptologists have typically dismissed these accounts as misidentifications of natural rock formations or ruined-out buildings. Advocates of the hypothesis, however, point out that the choice of black stone would have carried powerful symbolic weight in ancient Egyptian culture, black denoting the fertile Nile silt that enabled life to flourish, as well as the regenerative darkness of the underworld through which the sun must pass each night. They further note that, in contrast to standard pyramid construction, the Black Pyramid appears to lack any obvious entrance or internal burial chamber, leading some to propose that its true purpose was not funerary at all but rather ritualistic, technological, or even energetic in nature. According to this view, the dense, semiconductive properties of the black stone might have been harnessed to amplify or transmit energy, functioning as a ceremonial focal point or an early form of power storage, although excavations have yet to produce conclusive physical remains. Occasional geophysical anomalies detected by ground-penetrating radar and satellite imagery align with the location described in historical manuscripts. If the Black Pyramid did indeed once stand on Giza's western flank, Its rediscovery would not only expand our architectural map of ancient Egypt, but also compel a profound reevaluation of the civilized and symbolic, scientific, and technological achievements. Asterisk in the mid-18th century, a handful of intrepid European explorers chronicle the mysterious J.T. Black edifice on the Giza Plateau that has since been all but erased from the official record. The first and most detailed account comes from Danish adventurer Frederick Ludwig Norden, who in 1737 traversed the desert from Ethiopia to Egypt. Pausing to sketch and describe what he called a fourth pyramid standing alone west of the familiar limestone giants, and like the smoothly polished tombs of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, Norton's Black Pyramid bore no veneer of creamy casing stones. Instead, it rose as a stark, unadorned monolith capped by a broad, flat slab rather than a traditional pointed apex. His meticulous manuscript, complete with scale-accurate drawings and notes on the dense, igneous rock from which the structure was fashioned, left little room for error or imagination. Several decades later, French scholar Louis de Brye's working, independently of Norden and without access to his records, also mentioned, in passing, the presence of a darkly hued pyramid that had vanished from local maps. His brief reference, buried in an esoteric treatise on Egyptian geometry, described a lone, shadow-colored stone mass that bore all the hallmarks of an engineered monument rather than a natural hill. In the same era, antiquarian Paul Lucas recorded similar observations during his own travels, noting a blackened, pyramid-like form that elicited both awe and confusion among local guides. Taken together, these three testimonies from Nordic memory and pen, French academic inquiry, and Lucas's wider ethnographic survey form a remarkable triad of corroboration. Each account conceived in isolation yet converging on nearly identical details: location west of Giza, absence of casing, construction from a peculiar dark stone, and a flat-topped summit. While mainstream Egyptology has largely dismissed these reports as misinterpretations or romantic embellishments, the convergence of independent sources suggests that a genuine tradition of a Black Pyramid once permeated the oral and written lore of early modern explorers, one that may have been quietly suppressed as archaeological priorities shifted toward the grand white monuments that dominate textbooks today. Asterisk mainstream Egyptologists have largely treated the idea of a Black Pyramid on Giza as nothing more than a case of mistaken identity or the product of overactive 18th century imaginations. They point out that early travelers may have confused the eroded remnants of peripheral structures or even natural rocky outcrops cast in deep shadow as the sun sank for a purpose. Build monument of dark stone. According to this view, Frederick Ludwig Norden's sketches and Louis de Brye's offhand notes are best understood as embellishments or transcription errors, rather than reliable testimony of a lost architectural marvel. Critics further observe that no shards of black igneous rock matching the purported pyramid's description have ever been unearthed during systematic excavations. And they emphasize that centuries of archaeological survey have yielded no corroborating strata or foundation lines. In their estimation, the absence of any clear physical trace combined with the human penchant for romanticizing remote landscapes renders the Black Pyramid hypothesis highly implausible. Yet this dismissive stance struggles to account for the remarkable consistency found in multiple, independently produced manuscripts, three separate 18th century observers, none of whom appeared to have conferred each recorded a solitary Yunnan-cased pyramid of dark, granite-like material standing to the west of Giza's white-cased tombs. Their descriptions align not only in general location, but in precise details: the absence of a traditional limestone veneer, the presence of a broad, flat capstone, and the unmistakable tone of the black stone itself. The convergence of these accounts, emerging from distinct national and scholarly traditions, raises the question of whether a deeper explanation exists beyond simple misperception or literary flourish. While conventional archaeology demands tangible artifacts and measurable foundations, the repeated confluence of independent eyewitness records suggests that something once stood at that spot, whether a true pyramid or an ancillary monument whose memory later faded as focus shifted to the grandeur of Khufu, Kaffa, and Menkaure. In this light, the scholarly skepticism that cites no evidence may merit re-examination, particularly in an era when non-invasive technologies like ground-penetrating radar and high-resolution satellite imagery can detect buried anomalies that traditional excavation once overlooked. In recent years, a suite of cutting-edge archaeological technologies has revolutionized the way we explore and understand the past, enabling researchers to peer beneath the Earth's surface without lifting a single trowel. High-resolution satellite imaging allows scholars to scan vast swaths of land, revealing subtle variations in soil and vegetation that hint at hidden walls, roads, or foundations long since buried. Ground-penetrating radar GPR complements these aerial observations by sending electromagnetic pulses into the ground and measuring the reflections that bounce back, thereby mapping subsurface structures in exquisite detail. Meanwhile, advanced remote sensing techniques such as LiDAR, which uses laser light to penetrate dense foliage, can generate three-dimensional models of ancient landscapes, exposing man-made terraces, fortifications, and other features that are completely invisible to the naked eye. A striking testament to the power of these methods emerged during the 2020 Luxor excavation, when a team of Egyptologists, armed with satellite imagery and GPR data, set out to locate the fabled lost Golden City, a settlement chronicled in scant historical records yet never definitively found. To their astonishment, they detected a series of deep, geometric anomalies precisely aligned with coordinates drawn more than a century earlier by the cartographer Nordner, near forgotten figure whose meticulous sketches had long been dismissed as fanciful. The anomalies' sharp angles and regular spacing suggested human construction rather than natural geology, and subsequent targeted excavations confirmed the presence of walls, streets, and storage pits, all remarkably well preserved beneath layers of desert sands. This convergence of 21st century technology and vintage cartographic insight not only validated Norden's work, but also underscored how integrated multidisciplinary approaches can unlock secrets of the ancient world that were previously unimaginable, heralding a new era in archaeological discovery. Asterisk in ancient Egyptian thought, the color black carried a potent symbolism far beyond the Western association with death and mourning. It signified both the fertile promise of life and the transformative journey of the soul through the underworld, drawn from the rich, life-giving silt deposited by the annual inundation of the Nile. Blackness evoked rebirth and regeneration, a vivid reminder that even in the depths of the earth there lay the seeds of renewal. It was for this reason that quarries of black stone, typically basalt or diorite, were jealously guarded and employed sparingly. Reserved solely for the most sacred of contexts, the sarcophagi and chests that cradle the mummified bodies of The elite, as well as ritual objects meant to guide the deceased through their perilous passage beyond death. Yet when black stone surfaces in an architectural guise most strikingly as the material for an entire pyramid, it suggests a purpose that transcends mere funerary function. Such a black pyramid would not simply be a grand tomb. Its very materiality would imbue it with ritual potency, perhaps serving as a locus for ceremonies of cosmic renewal or as a sophisticated machine designed to harness the regenerative energies of the underworld. The choice of blackstone, then, implies a deliberate technological or ceremonial intent, one in which the stone's symbolic weight was as essential as its physical durability. By aligning monumental form with the metaphoric language of color, the Egyptians demonstrated their mastery of materials not only to honor the dead, but also to participate in a continual cycle of death and rebirth, a cycle carved in stone. Colored by the fertile earth itself, and destined to withstand the ravages of time. Recent investigations into the Great Pyramids have led some researchers to reconceptualize these monumental structures not merely as eternal resting place, as for pharaohs, but as sophisticated energy systems ingeniously engineered to harness and manipulate natural forces. The extraordinary precision with which massive limestone blocks stand, in key internal chambers, semiconductive materials such as granite and rare black stone were quarried, shaped, and fitted together points toward an insulating or electromagnetic function that goes far beyond the requirements of static load-bearing stability, rather than serving solely as inert building materials. These stones may have been selected for their capacity to channel, focus, or contain subtle electrical currents generated by the interaction of the pyramid's geometry with the Earth's natural telluric and magnetic fields. Indeed, some theorists argue that when viewed as an integrated complex, the three principal pyramids of Giza form the nodes of a primitive wireless energy grid. Their precise orientations and intermonument alignments calibrated to maximize resonance with the planet's geomagnetic flux lines. In this view, channels, shafts, and hidden chambers within the cores of the pyramids functioned as waveguides, capacitors, or calls ancient analogues to the resonance circuits that Nikola Tesla would explore in depth more than 30 centuries later. Although conventional Egyptology remains cautious, citing the absence of direct textual evidence for electrical usage, recent experimental work with scale models and material science analyses has demonstrated measurable piezoelectric and dielectric effects in granite and diorite under conditions analogous to those within a pyramid's interior. Taken together, these findings suggest that the ancient Egyptians, operating at the intersection of architecture, geology, and ritual cosmology, may have devised a technology of power generation or energy modulation, one that resonates with the mystery and ingenuity of the pyramids themselves, and that invites us to reconsider these wonders not only as tombs, but as monumental machines of transformation. The layout of Egypt's Great Pyramids reveals far more than a grand display of architectural prowess. It encodes a deliberate correspondence between the terrestrial and the celestial, suggesting that the builders possessed not only sophisticated astronomical insight, but also a nuanced understanding of the Earth's own magnetic properties. When viewed from above, the three principal pyramids at Giza trace the familiar pattern of Orion's belt Talmutic, Alnilam, and Mentoka Wala IV. Still, the theoretical Black Pyramid site appears to complete a geospatial echo of the stellar formation. This celestial mirroring is no mere aesthetic flourish. The positions and orientations of the stones appear carefully calibrated to intersect key lines of geomagnetic force that course through the plateau, as if each monument were a beacon or node in a larger energy network. By aligning their massive structures with both the starry constellation and the invisible currents beneath the Earth's surface, the ancient Egyptians may have been aiming to channel, stabilize, or even amplify natural energies for ritual, symbolic, or practical ends. Such precision would have required long-term astronomical observations to track the shifting rise and set of Orion's belt, combined with empirical knowledge gained perhaps through trial excavations or rudimentary compass-like devices of how subsurface mineral deposits and rock strata influence magnetic inclination and intensity. In this light, the Giza complex emerges not simply as a necropolis devoted to royal afterlife, but as a harmonized cosmogram in stone, where sky and ground converge. It stands as a testament to a civilization that saw the cosmos as a living system, one in which the heavens' wheel of stars and the planet's magnetic heartbeat could be woven into the very foundations of its most enduring monuments. In spite of the ostensible mission of scientific discovery that underpinned many 20th century explorations, a recurring pattern of abrupt terminations, opaque bureaucratic maneuvers, and document sanitization suggests a concerted effort to suppress unsettling findings. Surveys conducted in remote locales, most notably the Hawara Desert Expedition, are said to have detected inexplicable architectural formations or subsurface anomalies. Life of field operations to be mysteriously curtailed and data archives withdrawn from public view. Likewise, documentation from the Apollo lunar program, long heralded as a triumph of open inquiry, has repeatedly surfaced in Freedom of Information Act requests only to return heavily redacted, delayed, or entirely withheld, as if entire swaths of observational film, telemetry logs, and photographic records had been deemed too provocative for broader scrutiny. Each instance of gatekeeping, whether the unceremonious decommissioning of a ground-penetrating radar survey or the sudden reclassification of flight transcripts, feeds into a broader narrative in which official channels appear more invested in preserving a sanitized account of history than in confronting anomalies that challenge prevailing paradigms. The cumulative effect is a kind of institutional inertia that stifles follow-up studies, discourages independent verification, and disincentivizes whistleblowers from coming forward. Over time, these repeated shutdowns and redactions have fostered a pervasive sense of mistrust among researchers and enthusiasts alike, prompting many to view mainstream agencies not simply as neutral stewards of knowledge but as gatekeepers, determined to shield the public from discoveries deemed inconvenient, controversial, or perhaps dangerous to the prevailing order. In this way, the very mechanisms designed to catalogue and preserve humanity's exploratory achievements have, paradoxically, become instruments of concealment, ensuring that, for every strange structure exposed in the desert or curious reading captured on the moon, a corresponding veil of secrecy descends, sealing away the most disquieting truths. Scholars have long debated what ultimately became of the elusive Black Pyramid, and to competing theories offer very different fates for this lost monument. According to the dismantled theory, the pyramid's carefully hewn blocks were systematically stripped away sometime during the 18th century to meet the burgeoning demand for quality building stone. In rapidly expanding Cairo, under this scenario, Masons and laborers carted its granite and limestone upriver or across the desert to erect grand residences, mosques, and fortifications, leaving little more than a ghostly footprint on early modern maps, an omission many believe was intentional, as local authorities sought to efface reminders of a pagan past while repurposing its materials to reinforce the Islamic city's new identity. Conversely, the buried theory posits that rather than being quarried away, the Black Pyramid now lies entombed beneath millennia of unconsolidated sand, urban sprawl, and agricultural plots whose shifting topography has obscured its contours. From even the most determined explorer, ground-penetrating radar surveys in the proposed vicinity have intermittently detected deep, geometric anomalies long rectilinear formations whose dimensions and alignments echo those of known pyramidal structures, hinting that its core masonry may still survive, awaiting rediscovery. In this telling, modern housing developments and roadways have simply allowed centuries of detritus to accumulate over its base, effectively insulating it from the surface. What unites both theories is the recognition that the Black Pyramids' disappearance, whether through deliberate dismantling or natural burial, speaks to the complex interplay between human ambition and the relentless flow of time. Each hypothesis carries its own archaeological implications. If its stones were cannibalized, they may yet be traced to later edifices in Cairo. If it rests hidden, then only a concerted program of geophysical mapping and targeted excavation can lift the sands of history to reveal its lost grandeur. Either way, the pyramid's fate remains one of Egyptology's most tantalizing enigmas, challenging us to piece together a vanished past from the fragmented clues that endure. Asterisk in the realm of Egyptology, few questions are as tantalizing as the fate or even the very reality of the so-called Black Pyramid. For decades, its existence has hovered between legend and skepticism, a whispered possibility that refuses to conform to the tidy narratives of orthodox scholarship. Some critics argue that the Black Pyramid was merely an artifact of misinterpretation, a mirage born of 19th-century travelers' romantic imaginations or the misreading of fragmentary medieval maps. Others maintain that scattered references in ancient texts and subtle geophysical anomalies on the Giza Plateau hint at a once monumental edifice whose memory was deliberately effaced or simply lost beneath millennia of shifting sands and encroaching development. This enduring ambiguity challenges conventional methodologies, inviting researchers to question not only the reliability of historical records but also the assumptions that underlie archaeological inquiry itself. Today, however, a new wave of interest is surging through the field, propelled by advances in remote sensing, high-resolution satellite imagery, and ground-penetrating radar techniques that can reveal subsurface structures with unprecedented precision. When these cutting-edge tools are coupled with digital modeling, stratigraphic analysis, and interdisciplinary collaborations drawing on geophysics, materials science, and even computational archaeology, the possibility of resolving a Black Pyramid's mystery becomes tantalizingly real. Renewed scholarly expeditions are already integrating LiDAR surveys, magnetometry, and drone-mounted multispectral scanners to probe beneath the desert's surface, seeking the faint signatures of buried foundations or hidden voids. Whether these efforts ultimately confirm the pyramid's physical remains, expose the roots of a centuries-old misperception, or uncover entirely new facets of Giza's complex landscape, they underscore a broader imperative to remain ever curious to embrace technological innovation and to recognize that, even in one of the world's most studied sites, there remain truths still waiting to be uncovered beneath the sands of history.